In the previous class, what we have seen the format of authentication. Now to demonstrate how authentication will work, to demonstrate how the web server will work, I have taken two Salesforce arcs and I have made it. But practically, one should be an external system, another one should be internal system. Now, if you are a provider, we are not worried about all these things. When you are trying to consume the service from external system, then we need to know what type of authentication the third party is using and how we need to get the access token, whether they are using a open or API or authentication or web server or code format or client credential, what they are using. Then we need to understand how to generate the access token, then fetch the data from the third party. This is the basic format what we are supposed to understand. Now, in this case, Salesforce being a consumer, we'll see that Salesforce is a consumer. In the day before yesterday class we have seen, last Sunday class we have seen, if you want to be a provider, how to define a REST API resource we have seen. Now, we will understand if you are a consumer, how do you make a request to the third party and get the resource from them. But in this process, we need to understand that we are going to authenticate ourselves with OAuth. The third party systems, they told, the third party system what I am taking, they told the authorization should be done with OAuth. The third party systems are saying the authorization should be done with OAuth. So if the authorization should be done with the OAuth, what we are supposed to do? Any one of the three formats. There will be three formats. I have to choose any one of the three. What are the three formats? One is username password. Second one is web server or code format. Third one is client credentials. Reference token is token of what we are going to get in the code format of authorization. It is not a separate story. Right. So what type of authentications we have? Username password. Second one is web server code format. Third one is your client credential. These are the three systems what we have. Now let us integrate with the LinkedIn. The reason for taking LinkedIn is it's an open account. Everybody can create your own account and integrate. So the systems what I am preferring is open systems so that everybody can make a connection to the third party and get your information. Okay. Now, if you want to log into Salesforce as a developer, you're opening developer.salesforce.com, registering your account. If you register with the login.salesforce.com, you get only CRM account where you cannot write your program. Similarly, if you want to log into the LinkedIn, you can log into the LinkedIn two ways. One of the way of logging into the LinkedIn is customer. What we do, LinkedIn.in, username, password, login, check your posts, check your feeds and follow the people. Now I want to log into the LinkedIn as a developer. If you want to log into the LinkedIn as a developer, now you can go here, at the bottom you will be finding developer option will be here. Right. At the bottom, what was that? Developer. Go to the developer. So where we have developer.linkedin.com. So if you want to log into the LinkedIn as a developer, developer.linkedin.com. So go to the application, sign in. Log into this. I'm logging into my LinkedIn as a developer. So how do you log in? Developer.linkedin.com. Developer.linkedin.com login. When you log in, you are able to see here. What was this? My application. Create application. Because LinkedIn is a service provider for you. You are taking LinkedIn as service provider. As you want to take a LinkedIn as a service provider, where should I create a connected app? Connected app should be created in the service provider. So who is the service provider in this case? LinkedIn is the service provider. Salesforce is the service consumer. So I want to integrate with the LinkedIn, get the data which is there in the LinkedIn. As I want to take the data from LinkedIn, LinkedIn is the service provider, Salesforce is the service consumer. Then what we have? Create application. When I told create application, basic data. So enter your basic details, select the file to upload. Yes. Right. Purpose of the application, I told education and training. Website URL. Business URL. Basically, what I was trying to do, I was creating a connected app. The moment I created a connected app, what did you receive here? Client ID, client secret I have received. Now they asked, what do you want to access? Basic profile, email address, whatever the data you want to access, you can give it. Then, OAuth 2.0. They asked, redirect your boss to which Visual Force I have to send the code. When you are requesting a code from me, I was supposed to send a code to you. To which Visual Force I have to send it? Create that page name as redirect URL. So what I was doing here, I was going to developer console. LinkedIn response. This is the page. Now I was supposed to give what does it mean? This is the name of the page to which I want you to send the code. Callback URL. When you are requesting a code from me, to which page I have to send the code? You are requesting a code from me to which page I have to send the code? That page should be registered as a callback URL. So I have created this. They told OAuth 2.0 and 1.0a. Now the format is OAuth 2.0. Update that. So what we had here? Client ID, client secret, callback URL. But the problem here is I need to understand what is the endpoint URL. If I have to make a request to the LinkedIn, what is the URL of authorization server? What parameters I have to send? Then how are you going to send the code? When you are sending a code, how should I make a request again for the access token? So to understand this, I need to go through the documentation of the LinkedIn. Now, because the system is a LinkedIn, I am going through the documentation. I told you the process may or may not be same for every system. In Salesforce, if some external system want to connect to the Salesforce, they told pass the client ID and the redirect URL. I will give the code to you. You send a code, client ID, client secret, redirect URL. I will send a access token. This may or may not be same with every system which you are connecting. Now the system what I have preferred here is LinkedIn. The reason for creating a connected app in the LinkedIn is the source. He is the service provider for me. Because the LinkedIn is a service provider to me, I have created a connected app in the LinkedIn. Now I need to go through the documentation and understand what format of authentication they are preferring. Is it a client credential? Is it a code format? Is it a username password format? What format of authentication? Or are they going with the API? I am not sure LinkedIn is using OAuth or not. The LinkedIn may use API based authentication. LinkedIn may use only a okay, data in the form of username, password, which is sent in the body. LinkedIn may prefer authentication. LinkedIn may prefer or the username, password, or the code format, or the client credential. So we need to understand what is the format of authentication that LinkedIn is using. So how do you know that? Go to the documentations. When you go to the documentation, they told authentication with the OAuth. So we understood that they are giving authentication with the OAuth. Okay, in that what they told, create a connected app, register a callback URL. You are going to get a client ID, client secret, which we already received. Request a authorization code. They told request the code. If I want to request the code, what they told? Method should be a get endpoint URL is this. To this endpoint URL, if you send a get request using response type, always code, client ID, okay, API key, read at URI, okay. Then they told state and scope. Where these two are not available to me in the Salesforce. Salesforce asks me to give response type code, client ID, read at URL. But according to this LinkedIn, the data what they are expecting is response type, client ID, read at URL, state and scope. Where the scope is an optional parameter for you. State is a required parameter. What they are asking you to pass? Any string of your choice, any random string of your choice. Okay. So I are supposed to make a request to this URL with a get format with the following parameters. That is going to send me, take me to this page, ask me to accept me to access the code. Then they are giving me code and state. Okay. Once the code and state is given to me, then again they are asking exchange the authorization code for access token. Then I was making a request to this URL with the post. What are the parameters? Grant type, code, read at URI, client ID, client secret. We pass all the four, we are getting access to it. Right? This is for only authorization. Now, what is the resource we want to access is the secondary step. First step is let us authorize. Let the LinkedIn allow me to communicate first. If I can generate access token, that's the end of the game. Rest of the thing is accessing the resource is very easy. So this is the documentation. So as per this documentation, we need to follow it. So let us create. I hope everybody followed. So what format of authentication they are using? Code format. Is it necessary that everybody has to use the same? No. Now can I command the LinkedIn boss? You go with the username password? No. Is the provider whatever the procedure he follows? I have to obey and get the access to it. It is not my ball. It is his ball. Now get into the format here. What I need? Public string, client ID. The process what I need? Public string. Client ID, client secret. Then we are going to get code. Public string. Access token. Then we are going to get this is the data what they are expecting. First, I want to take LinkedIn. Salesforce.com / apex / this is how the redirect URL you will get. Now I want to make a request for a code. If you want to make a request for a code, I told if you give a page reference, it is also like a get method. To make it easier, I'll go with a page reference. Public request the code. First, the endpoint URL what they give. Now, is it my choice? Blindly, you need to follow the documentation. You have nothing to do other than following the documentation. URL equal to URL plus. What is the first parameter they are asking you to pass? Grant response type equal to %. Then they ask you to pass client ID. Then they're asking you to pass %. What is the next parameter they're asking you to pass? Redirect URL. I'm simply following the documentation what they have given. Whatever the state here. Then I gave page reference equal to page reference. Now, what we gave here, I made a request to this. If you want to make a request, what I require? Client ID, redirect URL, state I require. Let me create a page. Shall I copy the VF page? Shall I copy the VF page? What was that? Client ID, redirect URL. Okay. Rather than writing the complete VF page, I am copying it. You're okay with that? You know the format of creation of page. LinkedIn home. What is the class we give? Request code, then a client ID, redirect URL, and we also require one more input. What is the other input we require? State. I don't need 50 now. This is T section 4. So I gave. Okay. Let's have a preview of this page. This is a preview. First, what I will do is I'll copy this code. I'll log out from the LinkedIn so that the complete process will be noted. I'll log out. Now I'm going with the client ID. state any random string of your choice. Then you are making a request. Before you make a request, one primary thing you have to do it. What was that? Any third party system to which you are trying to communicate, you are supposed to register that URL with a remote site city. The base URL should be registered with a remote site city. Go to the home, administer, security controllers, remote site settings. You are correct. So go back here, request the code. Now it is asking my username password. It is navigating to LinkedIn. So it is not asking me username password on Salesforce page. Now it is not asking my username password on Salesforce page. It is asking the username password on LinkedIn page. So whose responsibility to transfer your username password securely? LinkedIn. If I enter the data of my username password on the Salesforce, it is the responsibility of the Salesforce to see that data is encrypted properly and sent to the server. But it is not the responsibility of Salesforce. It don't want to take the responsibility of migrating, so they are using code format. When you use code format, it is asking, don't enter your username password on my site. When you enter the data, click on a button, it will take you to the corresponding servers, okay, host login page. You enter the data there, it will transfer the data to the corresponding server. Now I'm giving logged in. It is asking authorize it. No. What you are able to see on the top? We are able to receive the code. I hope you are good. I hope you are good with this. So we are receiving the code. How do you read the code from the URL? So the code is coming on the URL. How do you read it? If you want to read any parameter from the URL, read the code. Code equal to apex page dot parameters dot get off. We received the code. Once I received the code, what is the next step I have? I was supposed to request for the access token. Now, as per the documentation, if you want to request the access token, what they are asking, make a post request to this URL, the grant type, code, redirect URI, client ID, client secret. Now I'm requesting for a access token. Request token. So string endpoint is not set endpoint. Request dot set method. String body. So when you say string body, what is the data you are supposed to give? Grant type. The parameters what you are supposed to pass, code, redirect URL. Then you are supposed to pass client ID, this is we are giving. So grant type equal to authorization code, you are equal to. So we have body equal to body plus client ID. Client ID, client secret.
What is redirect URL in this method, sir?
The page URL to which we are supposed to send the code. LinkedIn will be sending the code to this. We already registered at the time of creating a connected app. Whatever the page name you are registered at the time of creating a connected app, the same page we have to pass. I have taken here. This is the page. So we have set body, set body. Now we are making response equal to p dot send. Then we are going to get string JSON string equal to response dot get body. Now what we are doing here, we are getting the response. Once you are getting the response, in the response what we have? In the response I have a access token. We got a response. In the response we have access token, which I was supposed to deserialize. So how do you do that? How do you do that? Now look at the format. System dot JSON generator. I need to parse it. Parse it. JSON parser. Then I'm giving while then if next token if then we are supposed to give access token equal to gp dot get. This is a common procedure which we are following from last 4 examples, right? Once you got the response, we are getting it. Now, what was the bug here? A request, there's a mistake here. What was that? Now, what did I do in this case? Was first step I requested a code. Second step I requested a access token. Right. The same procedure what we have done with your last example, but only the difference is some of the additional parameters are added. Endpoint URL has changed, but the format of writing the code has not changed. Okay. Now what I need to give? Same code. Let me copy paste it. LinkedIn response. Then client ID, client secret, read URL, code. If you give it, it is going to display access token. Right? Client ID, client secret, redirect URL, code. Then when you click on request token, this data will be displayed. I hope this page is clear. Okay. Now let us go for a preview. Start from the home. Preview. Client ID I was supposed to give. Now already I logged in, so it is not asking me for username password. Already I logged in. Code. Request token. There is a request token. There is a bug here. What was the bug? Now, ampersand is one issue. Second issue is I have not registered this URL remote set setting because it is a different URL. www.linkedin, www.linkedin. Okay, URL is the same. No issue. Okay. So go back again. Go to the client. Request the code. Hello. Request token. This is how we have received access token. Now look at this. It is not only giving access token, it is also specifying expiry time. How much time it has to expire it. I hope you are good with this. Okay. Now once you received this, I need to make a call. Once you received this, I need to make a call now. What was the call? Was if you want to access the data, api.linkedin.com/v1people hash. If I give this, it is going to give me the details about the user. We got access token. Based on this access token, I was supposed to make a request to third-party system to receive my data from the LinkedIn. If I want to access my data from LinkedIn, first they ask me to authorize. Boss, get me your access token. If you know your access token, then make a request to me to get your data. Now we have generated access token. Once we have generated the access token, I can make a request to third party to ask what is my data. Again, what is the next one we had? Endpoint is the endpoint request dot set method request dot set header authorization. They're asking barrier equal to your access token. Then I'll just display the data. This is what we have made. Response dot get body. Is the URL is same or any difference in the URL? We have this API dot. Copy this URL. Right. So in the response,
So here we cannot use page reference method, sir.
come again.
Here can we use page reference method for last
Yes.
method?
Now, if you make a page reference here, the response, if they are sending in the form of body, I will not be able to capture it. If the response they are giving in the body, then I have to capture it, right? Now the response is coming in the body. That is the reason I was going for it. Okay. Now there, it is requesting a page. That's why it worked out. Are you getting my point?
Okay.
Have a preview. This is a complete example now. Access token. What I was supposed to give, add one extra button here to request the code, or else invoke this within the. We are supposed to call the method. So once again, from beginning, previously it is to ask me hello or not. Now it is not asking. So look at this. This is the data we received in the form of Excel. This is the ID. First name Satish, last name, headline, site. This is a response what I received. So they give me the headline what I give, corporate trend at Capital Info Solutions. This is my LinkedIn profile. I asked you to get the basic information. Now similarly, other information you want to access, go through the documentation. See what is the URL we have, what type of authentication you require. Make authentication, get the access. Now authentication process of is same. We already got access token. Now we need to know the URL of resource. You want to post a comment, what is the URL for it? You want to get the likes, what is the URL for it? Go through the documentation, perform the corresponding order. I hope you are good. So what was this? It is a what format of authentication? Code format of authentication. I hope everyone is good with this. Clear? Now I have done one example. You are supposed to do examples with getting the likes, getting the post, how many people are following, this type of data you need to get it. Okay. I given one example. If you really want to practice, there are a lot of services in the LinkedIn. You make a request and get the things. Right, Amma? I hope you are good. Clear for everyone? Okay. Next one we are going to do is I will post the data. Right now, what I'm doing from third-party system, I'm using the code format of authentication, getting the data from third party. Now my request is I want to send the data from Salesforce to third party by using the REST API, and I'll use authentication process. That is my requirement. So we have done the example of reading the data. I want to see how we can post the data to third party system using it. So I'll go with I have a box.com system. I am logging like a developer, developer.box.com. Now, I want to log into box.com. Now here, who is the service provider for you? Who is the service provider? Now what was that? Now I was, who is the service provider? Service provider is Salesforce. Service provider is, okay, box.com. In the box.com, I want to provide some services. Who is the service consumer? Who is the service consumer? Service consumer is my Salesforce. First, what we are supposed to do? Create new connected app. Why are you creating connected app? Whoever is the service provider, you are supposed to create connected app. So create a connected app. Custom app. Now what is that? OAuth 2.0 with JWT or else authentication. I am going with the authentication. They are giving what? They are saying this is the key what you are supposed to use. So you can also use API key and authenticate, or else you can also go with the authentication. What was this? Client ID, client secret. Then they're asking OAuth 2.0 redirect URL. What is this redirect URL? URL of the Visual Force to which I have to send the code. Now specify what scope you want. You need to read the documentation and see whether how to create a user, how to manage the groups, all this stuff. I have created this. Then connected API is created here. Now what we need to understand? Documentation. We need to go with the documentation. We need to go through the documentation, how we can authenticate. So they are using OAuth 2.0. They gave a endpoint URL. Okay, authorization header. Now, what is the basic format they are giving? This is the URL to which you are supposed to make a request. Client ID, redirect URI, state, scope is an optional. When you send this, you are going to get code. They are going to get a code. Once you got the code, make a request to this URL with the grant type, code, client ID, client secret. There is no redirect URL here. Now in the previous two examples, we have code, client ID, client secret, redirect URL. But according to this, they don't require any redirect URL. If you give this, what they are giving? What they are giving? Access token. They are also giving refresh token. Okay. Now they told revoke. How can you revoke? Whatever the connection that is established, you want to cancel that. You pass client ID, client secret, pass your access token. The connection will be expired. The connection will be expired. I hope you are good with this. Okay. So we are supposed to go through the documentation and perform. whatever the operation we want to do it. So let us start with the first one. What is this? So if you followed the previous example, I'll just try to copy paste some of the code. Is the previous code is clear for everyone? If you are comfortable with the previous code, some part of the code I'll copy paste it. First I'll do box example. So what are the data we require? What is the data we require for the box.com? Same story. Client ID, client secret, username, everything is same. Then I need to create a constructor, public box example. The box example, create URL equal to slash then we have request the code. When you request the code, I was supposed to create. You can make HTTP post method also. You can make HTTP get method also. We can make a get method and get the code. It's your choice. You can make a get method and get the code. Fine. For your understanding, I'll also do this example. Either I can do this also. I can do that and I can do this. Because I want to show that page is navigating, so I was giving this. So what is the endpoint URL here? Authorize, response type, client, redirect URL, state, scope is optional. So here also what we have taken? Response type, client ID, redirect URL, state. Same story, only what is modified? Endpoint URL is modified. Then get the code. How do you get the code? Apex page dot current page dot get. Same story. Apex page dot current page dot get parameters dot get. Then what I want to do? Request the access token. Request token. In the request token, what they ask me to pass? Endpoint URL. Method is what? What type of method is this? Post method. Grant type, code, client ID, client secret. Same story. What is changing here? Only redirect URL I have to remove it. Rest all is same. Only redirect URL I have to remove it. So look at this. So what was the URL we have taken? What is the extra I have to remove? Apart from this, everything is same. Am I right or no? So post method grant type equal to what type of given? Grant type equal to authorization code. Right. Code, client ID, client secret. If you make a get request, what we are getting here? Access token. Look at this. I made a request, you are getting a access token. I hope you are good with this. Okay. I hope you are good. So first let us see whether it is authorized properly or not. So this URL I have to register first. I hope the code is clear for everyone. Everyone has followed their code, right? Okay. Now you are supposed to create box home page, a box response page. It is also exactly the same like your previous pages. So basically the preliminary work I am doing the same. I am copy pasting the preliminary work. Our intention is after getting the access token, how do you post the data? That was my intention. Otherwise, example is the same. I'm giving box example, client ID, state, redirect URL. Similarly, I'm getting box response. So in the box response, I'm going to take right. Now only the difference is we don't pass any redirect URL. Then I don't need any result here. That's the end of the game. So let us go to the box home, preview. We require this. Now go to this, copy. Request the code. When I requested the code, grant access, already logged in, so it is not asking me the username password. If you're not logged in, it will ask you username password. Client ID, client secret, request token. So we got here access token. Once we got the access token, the process is same, right? Requested the code, we received the code, requested the access token. Now the game starts. When you got an access token, how I want to push the data. All our previous examples are getting the data from the server. Now I want to push the data into the server. Now if you want to push the data into server, let us see. What I want to do, look at this, all these are services, boss. All these are services. So here I want to create any one of the service. So what we do here initially, create a folder. We are trying to create a folder. What type of method is this? Post method. What are the parameters we need to pass? Name, parent ID. What is the format in which I was supposed to send? My request is now already I logged in, so it's skipped. Because already I logged in, directly gave me to page. If you are not logged in, it will ask you. Already I logged in, so it is not asking me. So look at this. So this is the format in which they are expecting the data from me. Name of the folder, parent folder. This is the format in which they are expecting a body of my request. Okay, boss. Let us create it. Till here, we made an access token and everything. Now what I want to do is, I want to create a folder in box.com. From Salesforce, I want to create a folder in the box.com. Public void Now what is the endpoint we had? Whether is post. Set body. So what we have here? Endpoint method is post set body. Body is name equal to name of the folder. So here I am giving name of the folder. It is a parent folder, so it is 0. Now that format is they have mentioned. As per the documentation, I should know in which format they are expecting the data. I was supposed to pass the data in the same format. So they are expecting me the data in the form of name of the folder. Is it a parent folder or a child folder? The next, I was supposed to pass set. At the end of the game, what we have done in this case? What type of authorization they are expecting? Then request. So what was our intention, boss? Once the access token is generated, we want to post some data to the server. Once the access token is generated, I want to post some data to the server. So I was invoking here. So what was this intention? Whatever the access token I received, with the help of that access token I am creating. Now we have so many services here, boss. What are the services? Get the folder info, get the folder items, create, delete. You do whatever the service you want. I have taken a post. You want to use a get, there is a get, there is a delete, there is a put. You whatever the service you want, you can take it. I have taken one of the service of creating a folder. So go back. Now take this. What was the first one? Grant access to box. Now somebody has asked allow access. There is a grant access. No. Go back to this and see the output. What was it? Batch 122. This is the folder what I created. Batch 122. Just now I created this folder. Right, boss? Now every folder will have ID. Now I want to say this should be a child of this ID. Now this new folder should be a child of that ID. So go back again. Request the port. Grant access. If I am not logged in, it will ask me username password, boss. In the batch 122, I got rest. Right? This is how I have performing some operation. So it is a post, we are pushing the content into the server side. Now they have given me service. If you make a request to this service, it will create a folder. So I have used it. It told if you make a request to this, I will create a folder. Similarly, if you look at this, what we can say, delete a folder, any folder, okay. Delete group. Yeah, delete a folder. If you want to delete a folder, they told folder ID, right? Folder ID. So what they told, if you pass folder ID, you pass folder ID. Simple they told, give the URL. Method is okay. Method is delete. They told pass this URL. This URL. So what will be the request format? Tell me. What will be the request format? I'll make this. Now what is the folder ID? Go to record, whichever the folder you want to delete. Delete. You know what we can do, boss? You are going to set the authorization. This is what I am giving. What was that? Variable P does not exist. So the services what they are giving, I am trying to use. But the process of generating the access token is not changing. The service what you are requesting, based on that endpoint URLs are changing. Right? So how do you call it? Again the same story. Go back. Now you can create a free account on the box.com. You can create a free account in the box.com. You can try that. Go to this. The folder is already deleted, right? So the process of access token generation is same, but based on the service, we are making different format. So we have seen a get, a post, and delete formats. I hope you are good. So that's all from my end for the day. In the next class, we'll see